Lilia, I loved being a witch. No!
Wow. I've got to say, I feel like I'm almost ready for the final episode of Agatha All Along. Not because I want it to end already, but because episode 7 was just so mind-blowing. And I can't wait to see what surprises are in store for the finale. Right now, it feels like we're getting the perfect happy ending for Lilia Calderu. Her journey through Witch's Road wraps up beautifully, with her becoming the key to the Coven's future. I mean, every witch needs a coven, right? No matter how messed up it might be. In this video, we're diving into Lilia's story, what we've seen throughout Agatha All Along, and especially in episode 7, where everything starts to come together. The whole idea of Lilia being this forgetful old lady shifts into something so much deeper, a wise, fascinating witch. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. We talk all things MCU and superheroes, from theories and reviews to breakdowns and everything in between. So if that's your jam, don't forget to hit subscribe. That way you'll stay in the loop with all the latest updates from Cinemamu. For those of you who might not know much about Lilia, let me fill you in. She's not just any witch. She's been around for 450 years. Yep, you heard that right. Imagine living through centuries of human history, especially all the crazy stuff that's gone down between witches and regular folks. She's seen it all. Witches getting hunted down, falsely accused, and wiped out. It's no wonder Lilia gets really annoyed with how pop culture depicts witches. She's got some serious history, and she's not afraid to call it out. Now, here's the scoop. Lilia is a Sicilian witch, and in the comics, she's known as the Witch Queen of the Romani. For those who aren't familiar with her comic book story, that might sound pretty surprising. In the MCU, she hasn't exactly shown off her magical powers, at least not until episode 7. So, in the comics, Lilia can tap into the mystical secrets of the Book of Cagliostro. She's got some serious skills, like mind control that can even affect powerful sorcerers like Doctor Strange. Crazy, right? And sometimes she appears as this old woman to folks meeting her for the first time, which is a bit of a twist. Oh, and did I mention she's worn the serpent crown? That thing boosts her magical abilities, but also makes her paranoid about losing it. It's like a double-edged sword. Now here's my theory. Losing the serpent crown is what the MCU shows as Lilia losing her powers. It drives her a bit crazy and makes her experience this weird time anomaly. She starts seeing these random sequences of events that create gaps in her memory, making it hard for her to figure out what's coming next. But slowly, those gaps begin to fill in, and by the time we get to episode 7, she finally sees the bigger picture. And if you don't buy that theory, she herself mentioned that she's felt this anomaly since she was a kid.
Out of sequence.
Coming from a royal family in the Roman Empire, Lilia was raised with a strong magical education. The maestro we see in episode 7 is probably Miarca, Lilia's grandma and the mistress of Nikolai, the first Baron of Mordo. So yeah, Lilia isn't just any witch. She comes from a long line of powerful witches and is pretty elite in her own right. All right, let's talk about Lilia's real reason for being on the Witch's Road. It's interesting because it's not what you might expect. Power? Nah, that's not her goal. Lilia isn't like Agatha or Jennifer Kale, who are both drawn to the Witch's Road to level up their magic. And she's definitely not on some truth-seeking journey, like Alice Wu Gulliver. She's not even trying to bring anyone back from the dead. So, what's her deal? At first, it's a bit tricky to figure out, especially since she didn't seem to know her own purpose when she got involved with Agatha's coven. I mean, remember when she randomly wrote her name down on that piece of paper when Agatha and Teen were picking out new members for the coven? She didn't even seem aware of it. And let's be real, she wasn't exactly eager to work with Agatha, who everyone knows is shady and manipulative. But then Lilia gets a vision, which is really the turning point for her. We don't see the full details of that vision at first, but it's what drives her to go along with Agatha to the Witch's Road. In the end, she joins the coven because of it. So, what's her real purpose? Turns out, the one clear thing she saw in that vision was her death on the Witch's Road. That's it. Her fate. During one of her conversations with her teacher, Maestro, or maybe her grandma, Miarca, Lilia talks about this vision, mentioning that she'd fall and die. What's interesting is how proud she is of being a witch, even while talking about her own death. She doesn't shy away from it. She's like, yeah, I'm a witch, and I'm going out as one too. And she's pretty proud of that. It's kind of wild when you think about it. Lilia has been waiting for this moment on the Witch's Road for over 400 years. She saw this all happening centuries ago,
Centuries.
and she even talked about it with Miarca, her mentor. Remember that creepy scene in episode 3, where we see Miarca's dead body and this shadowy figure, like death, hanging around? That's pretty much foreshadowing Lilia's endgame. Her time's running out, and she knows it. Now, why does she seem almost eager for her own death? It's actually not that complicated. Lilia has been through a lot in her life. She's been kicked out of places, shunned for predicting disasters accurately, and watched her coven get wiped out through different eras. And now, she's an old, tired witch. She's been through so much, her mind's starting to go, and she's just looking for a peaceful end to it all. If you think back, Lilia mentioned to Jennifer at one point that all she sees in her visions now is death.
Maybe because I'm close to the end.
That's pretty heavy, right? But it also shows us that, as a divination witch, Lilia doesn't see much of a future for herself anymore. She's accepted that death is on the way, and she wants to go out on her own terms, as a proud witch, with some dignity. No drama, no big magical fights, just a peaceful, dignified end. So let's dive into episode 6, where we finally uncover Lilia Calderu's role in the Agatha All Along storyline. You might not have seen it coming, but Lilia actually met William Kaplan 3 years ago, way before Billy Maximoff's soul slipped into William's body. She not only predicted William's future, but also placed a sigil on him. This little magical act was her way of giving him a shot at fully embracing his identity as Billy Maximoff in Wiccan. Pretty clever, right? From that moment on, Lilia stepped into the role of a protagonist. While navigating Witch's Road, she's been all about bringing the coven together, and it's clear she genuinely cares about each member. Her heartfelt gestures and words are aimed at Agatha, Jennifer, Alice, and of course, our boy Billy. But here's the twist. Because of that pesky time anomaly she's been grappling with, her messages often come out jumbled, leaving everyone a bit confused. It's like trying to follow a movie plot where the scenes are all mixed up. You might remember that even after seeing what would happen, Lilia tried to warn Alice about protecting Agatha from the attack by Evanora Harkness in episode 5. But poor Alice couldn't quite make sense of Lilia's fragmented words. It's a classic case of not hearing the warning until it's too late, and we all know how that ended. Alice faced a tragic fate at the hands of Agatha when she couldn't rein in her powers and ended up absorbing Alice's magic. It's heartbreaking, really. Now, moving into episode 7, I have to hand it to Marvel for weaving Lilia's story together so brilliantly. They laid the groundwork in the earlier episodes, dropping hints and pieces of her character along the way. And then, when all those pieces finally snap into place in episode 7, it's like a light bulb goes off, showcasing the climax of Lilia Calderu's journey. You can't help but feel invested in her fate. What's particularly compelling about Lilia is that her kindness has been apparent since she was young. Even when Billy pushed her away from Witch's Road, she didn't hold a grudge. Instead, she forgave him and offered her help as he faced his trial. It's such a refreshing take on a character that could easily have been written as bitter or vengeful, and it wasn't just Billy she reached out to. She also managed to persuade Agatha and Jennifer Cale to stick around and finish their trials. Jennifer, who initially wanted to throw in the towel and bail on the whole thing, found herself drawn back in thanks to Lilia's influence. And let's not forget about Witch's Road itself. It turns out there's a special exit route you can take without completing all the trials. Did you notice that subway track that looks like it leads to Westview? It's like a secret shortcut that we might not have expected. But we'll get into the details of that in the next video. For now, let's keep our focus on Lilia and her evolving story. It's fascinating to see how Lilia's character adds depth to the series. She's not just a background character. Her history, her connections, and her growth all play a significant role in the overarching narrative. The way she navigates her relationships, especially with the other witches, shows her growth and the depth of her character. By the time we get to the final episode, I think we'll all be rooting for her, hoping she finds the resolution she deserves. You know, it seems there was a time when Lilia lost her coven, and that left her traumatized. Without her coven, she felt like a powerless witch, wandering through life without her support system. In Roma witch culture, having a coven is absolutely essential. It's not just about practicing magic, it's about community, connection, and finding strength in numbers. Throughout the series, we've been shown these haunting paintings depicting the torture and execution of witches throughout history. It's pretty heavy stuff, right? Those images likely represent Lilia's former coven members. While the comics give us names of Lilia's past coven, like Margulies Ardos and Baroness Laura Maria Rusoff-Russell, the MCU hasn't dropped any hints about them yet. Now, let's rewind to episode 7, where Lilia faces her trial. She starts reading tarot cards, and at first, everyone thinks this is all about Billy. After all, the mystery surrounding him is still hanging in the air. Even Teen is confused about whether he's really William Kaplan or Billy Maximoff. But here's the twist. It's not Billy who's the focus. It's Lilia herself. Each card she lays down represents a member of the Coven. Agatha, Jennifer Kale, Alice Wu Gulliver, Rio Vidal, Billy, and of course herself. This setup shows how fate has chosen Lilia to be the catalyst, the one who brings this coven together. Once she finishes, guess what? The exit door opens up. Oh, and I can't forget to mention this moment. This is when we learn Rio Vidal's true identity as Death. Yep, Death. We finally get the full picture of who Rio really is, but I want to dive deeper into that in a separate video. So let's hold off on that for now.
Is it true?
When the door swings open, Salem 7 storms into the tower, ready to hunt down Agatha and the rest of the coven. But here's where Lilia shines. She guides everyone toward the exit, and just as they're about to step out, she closes the door behind her, choosing to stay back and face Salem 7 all on her own. With her magical prowess and those tarot cards, she flips the tower upside down. Before long, we see all of Salem 7 meet their end, impaled by swords that drop from the ceiling. But then, true to her vision of her own fate, she also falls. It's a bittersweet moment, isn't it? Lilia makes the ultimate sacrifice to ensure her coven members escape from Salem 7's clutches. But despite the sadness of her story, I believe Lilia found what she was looking for, a beautiful ending. Why do I say that? Because she closed her chapter as the witch she always believed she was, good, heroic, and proud. Just think about it. When Lilia confidently declares that she's a witch and wants to die as one, it's such a powerful statement. She says this right as she's closing that exit door, and it resonates so deeply. She definitely didn't want to go out as some forgettable old fortune teller raking in $20 a session. Nope, Lilia has now become a character that fans will remember for years to come, at least until characters like Wiccan and Speed are still around in the MCU. Wow, episode 7 really hit me hard, and now we're gearing up for episodes 8 and 9, which will drop right at the peak of Halloween. What do you think? Will Lilia Calderu make a comeback in the finale? Or has she truly wrapped up her story in episode 7? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Seriously, let me know what you think about my new favorite character. If you've made it this far, I bet you share my obsession with the MCU and superheroes. So please consider subscribing to this channel so our discussions can continue as we dive into the upcoming episodes. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.